Well, for those of you out there who enjoy boxing, or if you just want to learn a little bit more about Montana sports history, you're going to enjoy Chris Byers because tonight he gets in the time machine and goes back 25 years to when he first started at KULR 8. Chris?
Thanks, Kathy. Well, the landscape of local sports has changed much over the last 25 years. Case in point, professional boxing. During the late 1970s and early 80s, the sport flourished across Montana. The fighter that drew the most attention came from the Salish Kootenai Nation on the Flathead Indian Reservation. His name, Marvin Camel. Marvin holds the distinction of being the first person recognized as a cruiserweight boxing champion of the world by two different professional sanctioning bodies, the WBC and the IBF. To this day, that record still remains intact.
It's unfortunate that he is undefeated, because when he leaves here, he's going to have that bitter taste in his mouth of being defeated for the first time.
I plan on my strategy is to try hurting, to bust him up.
25 years ago, Billings hosted its first championship boxing bout. It happened May 21st, 1983, between USBA champion Marvin Camel against unbeaten Rocky Sikorsky. The fight was held at Metro Park and quickly turned into a one-sided affair. Camel outclassed and outpunched the overmatched Sikorsky. The bout stopped on a KO in the 9th round.
Well, it's unfortunate that he never backed up the words that he was throwing around when on the interview at the beginning of the week. And it's really unfortunate that he's going to have to quit boxing, because he made a promise that he was going to retire from the ring if I turn around and beat him.
Already a world champion, having won the WBC title in 1980, the fighter from Ronan becoming one of the more compelling sports figures in Montana.
He's a fellow from Ronan that uses boxing to go to Tokyo, go to South America. He fought in Sweden. You know, he fought in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He fought all over the world.
Camel's next fight was for the inaugural IBF title against Roddy McDonald in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Camel winning on a TKO in the 5th round. 10 months later, Camel made his first defense of that belt back in Billings against unbeaten Leroy Murphy. The scheduled 15-rounder turned out to be a war of attrition. Cut over the eye in round 3, Camel pressed on, piling up points and building a large lead. By the end of the 14th round, Camel had sustained cuts over both eyes. It was then the ring doctor stepped in and stopped the fight, giving Murphy a controversial win, and this was how the Metro Park crowd responded. Camel continued on until retiring in 1990 with a professional record of 45-13-4. His accomplishments in the ring certainly rank him among Montana's all-time greatest sports figures.
He was a world champion in 2 divisions at the same time. He fought everybody.
This was in the early 80s. Now, this guy was taking a pounding. I can't help but think that today they would have stopped that fight.
Yeah, they would have. And, you know, he had dropped down to cruiserweight to fight Camel. He went back to the heavyweight division, and in the late 1980s, he actually fought George Foreman.
Wow.
Lasted 6 rounds.
We saw the 2-time world boxing champion from Montana in action yesterday. And tonight, KULR 8's Chris Byers gets up close and personal with the former champ. Chris?
Thanks, Kathy. Well, last night we brought you the story of boxer Marvin Camel from Ronan. But whatever happened to the former champion? Turns out after 25 years, Camel and his wife Norma doing just fine living outside of Orlando, Florida. I had a chance to interview the 2-time world cruiserweight champion. I asked him to comment on those 2 fights that were here in Billings. You fought 2 world championship fights in Billings, 1983 against Rocky Sikorsky, 1984 against Leroy Murphy. Let's talk about both of those, Marvin, and let's start with the Sikorsky fight in '83 for the USBA title. What are your recollections of that fight here in Billings?
Well, I recollect that I was fighting a guy such like the same style as Marciano, but the problem was that Marciano would knock his opponents out, whereas Rocky Sikorsky couldn't. I had a jab that would keep Rocky Sikorsky on his heels all night. Therefore, that's what won me the world title. That won me the United States title at that time.
And then talk about the '84 fight against Leroy Murphy, who had been named to the U.S. Olympic team. He was undefeated coming in, and a real controversial fight, Marvin.
Yes, he was. He was a gold medal winner for the Olympics for the United States. The thing is with him, and he is a very strong puncher, hard puncher, but I am a very active and a man in shape. And that's what I felt that I won the world title in, by being the man in shape.
Last December, here in Billings at Metra, you were named in the first inaugural Native American Hall of Fame. I know you weren't here for that. They had a ceremony down at Metra, but how does that make you feel to be in the Hall of Fame here in Montana, that first Native American class?
Well, I feel very honored by being honored by the Native American and into the Hall of Fame. Marvin Camel was the first cruiserweight, first world champion from the state of Montana. We had a lot of Native Americans, and I'm not taking anything away from them, that were very, very excellent in what they did. But until I came along, there was never been a world professional champion from the state of Montana.
Tell me, are we going to see you back in Montana anytime soon?
Right now I'm affiliated with the amateurs down here in Tavares, Florida, but I want to take what I've learned here in Tavares, Florida, and transform that into the Montana realm and try and train and create another world champion from the state of Montana, whether it be Native American or a non-member. I'm back there in about 4 or 5 years.
Marvin, it was great to revisit you and have a chance to get caught up. Best of luck to you, and hopefully we'll see you real soon back here in Montana.
I'll be there, and thank you again, Chris, for making this possible. I love you all in Montana. You all take care until I do come back. Thank you.
You know, Chris, when I was taking a closer look at that video, this guy's face does not look like the guy who was a boxer.
His wife tells me he still runs 5 miles a day. It was great talking to him again. He's a wonderful person, and hopefully he does get back to Montana. And by the way, all these pieces that we did this week, I could have never done it without Brandon Sullivan. He did all the legwork, he did all the editing, and he really made them special. So without him, yeah, they wouldn't have been what they were.